On to the next forecast, Holt's linear trend. So in this one, we're judging, we're measuring a level and a trend. And notice the alpha and the beta here, they are variables. They're somewhere between 0 and 1, and we're going to get Excel to figure out what that number exactly is by adjusting it, the alpha and the beta, and seeing how close we can get our data, our projected data, to match the real data. That's the MSC and MAPE, that's what it's all about. So starting with the level, it says take this alpha variable and multiply it by the revenue for this same term, then add it to 1 minus the alpha multiplied by the level from last quarter plus the trend from last quarter. You might wonder, how are we going to get the very first one then? We're always looking at the last quarter. I'll show you when we do this. Trend takes the beta and multiplies it from the difference of the level from this quarter subtracting the level from last quarter, and then adds on to that 1 minus the beta multiplied by the trend from last quarter. And then the forecast is forecasting in the future. So the forecast looks for the next one, and so the forecast for this quarter looks at the level from last quarter multiplied by the trend from last quarter multiplied by, in this case, 1, until we get to the end. The last 4 quarters, this will really come into play, where this end will become 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I'll show you how that will work. So let's do it, and let's get to Excel. I'm on the original sheet, and I see that I have this blank sheet 1. I'm just going to get rid of this. F6, menu, D for delete. Good. Now I'm going to make a copy of this original. So F6, menu, M for move. I'm going to hit the end, and then I'm going to tab down to create a copy and space to choose that, and then enter to say OK. And then I'm going to rename this. So F6, menu R, I'm going to call it Holt's linear trend. And control home to get to the top. I'm going to need to add these two variables, level and trend. So let's start with, I'm going to go to the forecast and go control space to select that column, control plus, and then control plus again. And then I'm going to up arrow it, and right after the historic, the first one is level, and then arrow over, the next one is trend. I'm also going to make a place above MSC and MAPE for the alpha and the beta. So I'm going to hold down shift, I'm going to go down one across one, and go control plus, and then move it down. Use arrows to shift the cells down. And then in the top one, G1, I'm going to type in alpha, and the one below that, beta. And I'm going to set them initially at 1, allowing Excel to find what they are between 0 and 1. Next, the way that we start the very first line is the level is just equal to whatever the revenue was that time. And then it assumes, because this is a table, it assumes that all the ones down the table have the same formula. And that's not true. And the way that I tell Excel that that's not true is I undo it, Control Z. It doesn't undo the initial formula like it would have. And the reason it doesn't is because that's actually the second last thing I did. If I did Control Z again, that would get rid of that formula. I don't want to. But Excel did something for me. After I made this formula, hit enter, it autofilled. And what I undid is the autofill. Now that I've undone the autofill in level, it knows that level shouldn't be autofilled. It should be something different potentially on each cell. The trend, I'm just going to put at 0. And the forecast for the first one, I'm just going to leave blank, and I'm just going to delete it. It's the second level, the second quarter that counts, that we have a real formula. And so the first one, if you recall, it's alpha times the sales plus 1 minus alpha times the difference from the level from last quarter plus the trend from last quarter. So equals the alpha, I'm just going to arrow over there and F for it to always be that alpha, multiplied by the revenue for this quarter, plus, and then in brackets, 1 minus the alpha. So again, let's see, so we go across to it, F for it, close brackets, multiplied by the difference from the level from the last quarter plus the trend from the last quarter. I know this time it's 0, but it'll make more sense as it goes down. And then close bracket, and then enter. Notice it didn't autofill it down. It knows that in the level column you don't autofill. Okay, on to trend. So trend, the formula is beta times the difference from level from this quarter minus the level from last quarter, plus 1 minus beta multiplied by the trend from last quarter. So equal beta, F for it, multiplied by the difference from level from last quarter, or no, level from this quarter minus the level from last quarter, plus 1 minus beta, F for it, and close brackets, multiplied by the trend from last quarter. And I guess when I hit Control Z, it just did it for the whole table, not just column C, because it didn't autofill down here either. Now, the forecast is going to be, the forecast you'll see is forecast T plus N. So it's referring to the future. And so right now, think of it that I'm in the future, that right now we're in the first quarter, and now what will happen in the second quarter. So in the second quarter, I go equal, and it is the level from the quarter I'm in, the first quarter, plus the trend from the first quarter multiplied by how many quarters I am away, which right now is 1. So I don't need to multiply by anything, and then enter. Now I'm going to autofill all these 3, level, trend, and forecast. I'm going to hold down Shift, choose all of them, end down, and then while I'm still holding Shift, I'm going to go up to the last data points that we officially have, and then let go and go Control D. Now I'm going to go end down and going to go to the first time that the forecast is a prediction. And so this one is, it's going to be the level from the quarter that we're in. So so we're pretending we're in the quarter June 30th, 2022. But I'm going to F4 that because that's the last data point that we have that we need to keep for the next 4 quarters. Plus the trend that we're in for the quarter, and F4 that as well, multiplied by what row we are. Now I could type in a 1 here and then type in a 2 there, next one type in a 3, but I don't want to type in different numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4 down for these 4 quarters. I want Excel to remember which one we're at. And we can use that with the row function. Let me explain. We're going to start brackets and we're going to type row, open bracket, close bracket. What that does is it says, what row are we on? And the answer for us right now is 46. And then we're going to subtract by row, open bracket, and the one that's just above us, E45, and I'm going to F4 that, and then I'm going to close brackets, and then I'm going to close brackets again. The first close bracket was the closing of that row function, and then the second one is closing the whole brackets. So it says row 46 minus row 45. So this time will be 1, but next time when we autofill it down to the row 47, it's going to be 2. And then I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to go back to it and shift down to the end and Control D to autofill. I'm going to save what I got right now. And now I'm going to go Control Home, and I want to get solver. Okay, and where that is Alt A for data, and it's in the upper right hand corner, and I can see it's not there yet. Right after outline, it's just blank, but I'm going to need the analysis toolpack eventually when I do regressions, and I'm going to need solver in this for this Holt's linear trend. So I'm going to escape out of here, and I'm going to escape again to get rid of the letters up in the menus. And now I'm going to go obtain those two things. So that's in File, Alt F, and then my screen is so small that you can't see under when I go down to close and more, it was just 00 when I went Alt. You probably have it more than that, but I have to hit more and choose options. So you want to choose options if you can see it. And then you'll notice that general is selected in the upper left hand. I'm just going to arrow down to get into add-ins. And once I'm there, I'm going to tab over to the main menu, and I'm going to hit tab 3 more times. Notice I'm down in Manage Excel Add-ins. When I tab the third time, I'm in the Go button, because and that's what I want. I want the Excel add-ins. And the first one in the list which is selected, Analysis Toolpack. That's the one that will have regression in it. We'll need in a couple steps from now. So I'm just going to hit the space bar to select that. And then I'm going to arrow down to Solver Add-in and hit the space bar to select that. You'll notice the OK button is blue, so that when I hit enter, it'll accept it. Now, when I go Alt-A, you'll see that in the upper right hand that data analysis is Y2 and solver is Y3. And that's what I want right now, Y3 for solver. And I'm going to just shift this to the side. So Alt space and then M for move. And now I can use the arrow keys to move this out of the way. And then I'm going to hit enter to say that I want it to stay there. And so the objective that it's looking for is the MSE. That's why the MSE is such a big number. Is I want to tell Excel to minimize this number, this squared error, and the mean squared error. So I'm going to hit the up arrow right now I'm in the set objective space, and actually shift up. No. Oh, there it is. I can see the dotted fancy ants in B2 right now. I'm just going to move it over to H1 and I hold down Shift and go down one. So it's H1 and H2. Actually, no, sorry. I don't want any of those. I want MSC, H3. That's the one for the objective I want set. Then I'm going to tab down, and I want to minimize it. So notice how minimize, the N is underlined and minimize. I'm going to hit N. And then I'm going to tab down one more time, and what things do we change? And I hit the up arrow here, and right now I'm in cell A1, but I'm going to arrow over to H1 and hold down Shift, go down to H2. So I'm changing both the alpha and the beta. But I need to tell it that it can only be between 0 and 1. It can't make it alpha like 5 or 50 or -2. I can't do that. It's going to be between 0 and 1. So I'm going to go tab down, and to make a constraint, I'm going to tab one more time to the add button and hit enter. And the cell reference is going to go up arrow again and go to H1, shift down to H2, and it should be less than or equal to 1. So the less than and equal to is good. I'm going to go to constraints, it's 1. And then I could just hit enter, but I want to add a second one. I want to say that it has to be greater or equal to 0. So I'm going to tab down to the add button and hit enter, and up arrow again, and go over to H1, shift down to H2, and I'm going to change this instead of less than or equal to. This is kind of tricky. I wish that we would just, when I choose this, I wish I could go down 2, but what happens is it goes down to 0 and accepts it. So I have to go shift back and then try it again, going down one more, and that's the one I want. Greater or equal to, and the answer is 0. And those are the two I want. So now I can hit enter to make it okay. And everything else is good. And I'm just going to hit enter to solve. it's changed it and it wants to know if that's okay. It looks okay to me, just go okay. And so the variable it chose for alpha, 0.256, blah, 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 and beta is just 1. And, and you can see, now in the chart below, I just want the historic and the forecast. I don't want the level and trend. So I'm going to go Shift-Alt-5 to get in there, and then Alt-JC for chart design, and E for select data. And I'm going to tab down to the variables. Historic I want to keep, but I'm going to go down one to level, and I'm going to go Shift down to select the check mark in the level. And you notice that, see that's blue. I'm going to space bar to uncheck that. Then I'm going to arrow down again, or I think tab, yeah, and then Shift tab to go back, and then trend, and Shift down again, and space bar to get rid of trend. Now notice that OK is blue, so I'm going to hit enter to get that, and there, I can see the forecast. So that is the Holt's linear trend, and I'm going to save my work.